Good evening and welcome to Dark Hour Paranormal. From that corner in the Northeast, land of colonialism and reverence. Folks, my name is Michael Roser. I am your host this evening, and it's lovely to see all of you joining us tonight in the live. And of course, a big hello to all of you watching this after the fact. We've been very busy over here on the channel, and of course, you have caught some updates here and there as we've gone forward. I did an interview on No Such Thing podcast last Saturday. It was an absolute fantastic podcast with Cornell. He is a local guy. We'll be getting together and visiting some of these interesting sites out here in Massachusetts and across the Northeast, depending on how far he's willing to travel. But in the meantime, folks, we are going to keep things rolling with these interviews because, of course, that's what we do here. Wow, that green screen is really kind of fuzzy tonight. Anyway, it's not about the visual. It's about the content. It's about the audio at the very end of the day. So kick back, grab your favorite drink, your favorite snack, because, folks, I have a fantastic treat for you tonight. This evening, I have Viviane Chauvet, who is an incredible individual. Unfortunately, I had scheduled her for a handful of weeks ago. I flew within that, she gave me the grace to reschedule with her, and I'm very honored to have her here tonight. Now, I'm not going to go into an extreme dive of detail about Viviane because I put. Here we go. Hold on. Okay, I think we're back. Can everybody hear me? Just give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me. Microphone's just kind of coming loose. Don't know. Whatever. Don't worry about it. We're going to get through this. All right. Thank you, Viviane. All right. As I was saying, Viviane's extensive bio is in the description. Please go and check out that bio. You are going to find she's an accomplished author. She is a world-renowned presenter and speaker. She has been in many conventions talking about different elements dealing with esoterica, and we will define some of those elements this evening. On top of that, she's an Arcturian emissary of light. Now, one of the most fascinating things about this particular end of the field is that I find it to be one of the more intangible areas that most people sort of look over or really look at and say, hey, that's woo. You know, people who can channel or connect with extraterrestrial entities, that type of energy, often get overlooked because, to be honest with you, it's an intuitive endeavor. Most of it is a right brain interpretation, and there's a lot of emotion and feeling that goes behind that rather than the logical mind, the intellect, really having a seat. Now, that's where a lot of the confusion comes because some of the messages that we receive from these people who do this type of work is actually very sound, and we can corroborate it with some experiences that we're dealing with in life at the moment. So I think that Viviane is going to bring something to the table that some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not be, but either way, it's absolutely going to be an incredible ride tonight. And again, I am honored to have her on. So without further ado, I'd like to get right into this, jump into the heart of what we're going to explore tonight, and bring Viviane on because she's waiting so patiently in the back. Once again, very happy to have her here. Folks, I'd like to introduce to you Viviane Chauvet. Viviane, how are you tonight? Thank you so much for being on the channel with us today.
Michael, thank you for having me. The timing is perfect. And if you look at the synchronicity of tonight's interview together, it's November 10. We're shifting into 11/11 portal. And energetically, it's so much more conducive than it was even 2 weeks ago. So it is perfect and a joy to be here with all of you.
Well, thank you. And you've said something that I'd like to visit a little bit on tonight, and that is the phenomenon of the 11/11. Now, just to give some of you a very brief background about this particular phenomenon, if you will, I learned about this back in the mid to late 90s. I think that Drunvala Melchizedek had said that, you know, this particular type of energy was coming in collectively for all of us, really dealing with the earth, but in dealing with the earth or dealing with, you know, people and all life on it. This shift of energy, which directly corresponded to a pole shift that, by the way, is scientific. Okay. There's no question about what a pole shift is or whether it can happen. It can, and it has. Okay. It's the matter of the propulsion behind that we obviously question what triggers something like this, and we understand that there are subtleties within the 1111 energy that affects every single one of us. And I know that there were windows of time where we could accomplish one thing or another. Viviane, could you just starting there, tell us a little bit about your interpretation of the 1111 shift, what that means to you, and perhaps what that means to us collectively, as I understand that we're sort of nearing the end of that particular process.
Great point, Michael. And again, synchronicity at work here. Well, 1111 is truly a recognized, especially right now, a well recognized portal of alignment. The Earth is shifting into a new galactic space, and we know that we are truly on the verge of a huge historical change, a new era of consciousness. So the meaning of 1111 has greatly shifted. That before, for years we went through element 11, but what it means today, it's completely shifting because we see the human consciousness awakening finally to higher dimensionality. Human beings are starting to understand that, wait a minute, I'm not a linear being, I'm a multidimensional being. So the level of frequency that we are receiving, whether it's from the great central sun, the galactic core, and the energy of what's flowing to the planet. So when you merge into the sacred portal of 1111, that conjunction, it's even more, I would say, meaningful than it may have been like 5, even 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, the human consciousness was in a very different stage of evolution. Now we're looking at a great phenomenon. It's like a domino effect where planetary wise, there is that wave of awakening that is unfolding. And even those who may feel still uncomfortable into embracing beyond their physicality, their senses, their point of reference, there's still movement, there's still shifts. So my invitation, Michael, to you and everyone on the planet is whatever is your time zone, whatever is your background, whatever is your belief system, the invitation is just embrace and receive the great gifts of the frequencies of light that helps you on your journey from wherever you are on the level of consciousness. So there's just receive the gifts, say yes to the universe, allow yourself to return to be a cosmic citizen as much as you are a citizen of the earth. Does that make sense?
It certainly does. And let me ask you this question, because it's something I think that comes up very readily for most people. How does this apply to our average everyday person? Now, I can understand theoretically, conceptually, how this would apply, but within your interpretation that, we're actually getting this maybe this time around, and that people are starting to awaken a little bit, there are still so many people that sit in samsara or some sort of physicality wherein this is all that exists. Knowing, again, I know this is a multi-layered question, knowing that there are people who have a specific path, one that they may need to, learn some very preferable things. Still, they're part of this shift. Does this apply in any sort of observable way for the common man? Is this something they can practically work with as they go forward?
Absolutely. Two things. First, detaching from stories. Second, shifting the semantics. What is the common man? It's no longer the same definition as it was even 5 years ago. So there's a lot of semantics that is shifting. There's a lot of sort of release of old paradigms of belief system, whether it's ancestral, religion, cultural, certain behavioral patterns. It applies to everyone. The thing is, doesn't only speak to you on this conscious human level, it speaks to you at a soul level. It speaks to you at energetically level. It speaks to your body consciousness as a holistic system of energy and light. So your mind may says, well, wait a second, how does it apply to me? Well, you're saying you're an Arcturian hybrid? What is all of this? And so remember that we speak with you, we utilize, even though you hear words coming out of my mouth, we are using a multidimensional energetic language that we speak to you on a multitude of levels all at once. So, for example, your mental logic mind may says, well, that did not comply with me. And we say, it's okay, because we were talking to the other part of you. The other part of you who understand this kind of language, they feel the energy, to be able to receive the frequencies. One way or another, think of it this way. It's like the universal law, the law of movement, the law of action, knowing that the
Mm-hmm.
universe in a constant state of movement and expansion. And we may say, I refuse to partake to this expansion. And universe says, okay, but guess what? You're still expanding, even though that part of you declare, I refuse to expand. You are still expanding. That's because it speaks beyond the logic mental mind. It's part of the reversal of thought system. And this is a huge, huge teaching going on right now.
Would you ever, in the way that you would describe this, use the verbiage programming or anything that's sort of similar in that way? Because we understand that a lot of the way that people think is based on certain suggestion, whether it's unconscious or conscious within media, everyday life, and so forth. I mean, I could go down the list. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, Michael. I mean, the language the subconscious utilizes is huge. Like, for example, one of the big programming or patterns, even in communication, is that overall people were taught to use a negative form to express a positive affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, for example, I pray every day to the universe, I don't want this. I am done with this. I don't want this anymore. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to do this. So you're expressing a do not negative form to express in prayer something that you really wish to bring, that you have a desire for. So what happened is that to the subconscious, which also connects to the language of the universe, the form of the do not, should, and try are non-existent. So in reality, you're simply reinforcing a same pattern through a communication loop out of programming. That's an example of this. To answer your
Mm-hmm.
question, patterns, of course. This is why it's so huge, this historical change of era, because it's an entire civilization in the midst of a profound reawakening. It's not an awakening, it's beyond that. We are reawakening, start to remember, accept, feel, potentially integrate higher form of reality that have been coexisting with you all along. One of the proof of it, look at the earth. It's covered. The earth is covered with evidence, crop circles, petroglyph, ancient site. It's covered. It's part of the true earth archives throughout history. This is why right now it's so important to everyone to says, I allow myself to be teachable. I empty my mental cup, my logic mental cup, and I allow myself to be teachable again, to open up myself to higher realities and how it can help me in my 3D day-to-day so-called mundane life. At this point of the game, I would say nothing is mundane. Even just pouring a cup of tea or juice in the morning, it can be a possibility for you to have a profound awakening, a message, a revelation, a moment, just by pouring a glass of water or a glass of juice. I always says everything is an invitation. Be open, be flexible, be teachable.
As much as we want to sit around and look at books in an academic fashion, or observe something in some sort of intelligent manner, at the end of the day, people have said many times that extraterrestrials specifically have stated they receive and perceive life in respect to symbology. So, they're always constantly aware of these subtleties, the littlest movement in the forest, the way the leaf moves. There's a message in there for them based on their ability to interpret. I do believe that we have the same ability, and for whatever reason, we, just aren't seeing things as clearly in respect to a whole when we talk about these subtleties, but they still apply to us regardless. Now, when we talk about extraterrestrials and we talk about programming, I kind of have a twofold question for you. The first is, what is the ET's interpretation? I'm sorry. What is the ET's thoughts on the necessity of programming the way that we have utilized it and perhaps they've utilized it in the past? Why? And then 2, are we really the only civilization in our immediate universe that is progressing and evolving the way that we are, going through the hell that we put ourselves through? Or, you know, are there other species that have gone through something very similar to what we've gone through in their own history?
Indeed, Michael. Look at the universe of the multiverse itself. We know it's millions of years old. Look at just the Earth history to the shift. Look at the last 350,000 years. How much things have changed here in this quadrant, the solar system. Any enlightened, spiritually enlightened intergalactic civilization, such as my group, the Arcturians, Andromedan, Sirian, Lyran, Alpha Centauri, and so forth. Any civilization, wherever they come from, whether they are humanoid in looks or not, have gone through a series of evolutionary process to reach a level of spiritual maturity. So I'm going to talk about my group, the Arcturians. We are millions of years old. We are a race of ascended beings in the sense that we have reached a level of unity consciousness, of living in oneness with the sacred law of one creator, all there is. And so if you look at our archives, if we were to bring you to our spherical archives and said, we're going to sit down into one of the very ancient archives of our civilizations and look through books of history, you would go, whoa, you went through that? You witnessed this? But how can you be who you are today and you're living, what, almost 1,000 years in the same body? How do you do that? Now, to your human mind, and we say that with love and respect, of course, but to your Earth 3D human mind, you would say that transcend, that is beyond. But I know there's many star seed listening right now, so you know in your heart what I'm referring to. You have to look that says that there's always stages of evolution. It is the same thing with a soul. The soul is ancient and filled with wisdom. How many lifetimes your soul has had, you can't really count them because the most important one is the one you're having right here, right now. That's the one that counts the most. But at the
Why?
same time, you allow me, I'll share that comment in a moment. Great question. At the same time, in order for you to achieve what you've come to achieve within your soul design, you will bring with you certain virtue, quality, gift, knowledge, and abilities, like keys, like putting equipment, gear. I'm going camping in the mountain. I need my mountain gears. So you're going to pack that, right? And bring that in your pack back with you. So it's something similar. So when we're going back to, again, spiritually oriented and enlightened intergalactic groups, then they went through a lot of vibrational frequency shifts. They understand the repercussion of action. They understand the need of being spiritually aligned with technology to avoid destruction, to avoid, you know, planetary destruction and things like that. They understand the need of integrating in a harmonious way all the lessons that allow souls and as groups and community to evolve. Now, the other question was, are there other civilization in the same midst of evolution, same level of evolution as the Earth humans are? The answer is yes. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. What is fantastic about this, Michael, is that the other civilizations who you have no knowledge of, they're looking to the earth as an example to say, we're going to see how the earth human beings are able to return to their ascension state and being able to watch the earth return to her fifth dimensional aspect. And then we're going to be able to apply this model for us to help other groups, other civilization on other planet, other system, again, that you have no knowledge of, that will take that manuscript or that guideline, so to speak, and says, okay, They did it. They came back around after thousands of years of being in a sleeping stage. So we're able to do it too. So what we're doing here not only is pivotal for all life on this planet, including ourselves, animals, trees, the earth, everything, but it's the ripple effect that it has on other civilizations that are also on the third density stage of evolution, and they too they're getting ready to make the jump, so to speak, to evolve to the next level. So in reality, human beings, being the students, become the teachers at the same time.
Huh.
And that's extraordinary.
That's exactly the word for it. Absolutely extraordinary. I don't think that many people can even come up with an answer for that rather than what you've given us here, which is something much more articulate. Yes, we could, my God, do an entire show on that. In respect to understanding the history of our universe, how close are we to an accurate interpretation based on those who channel extraterrestrial entities? And I'm going to point quite purposefully to Amora Kuan Yin. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she was also aligned with quite a few of these different cultures, extraterrestrial cultures, and she wrote volumes about Venus, how we had existed there, and the destruction of that Maldek. Even our time on Mars. I mean, she went through this entire history that of course was expressed in a linear sense, for our comprehension more.
We're holding a space with you, Michael. You're on mute right now. I know. We do affect the equipment. This is our frequencies. It happens all the time. It really does.
Right about that. Can you hear me now? Okay. Essentially, yes. All I was asking is there an accurate interpretation of our universal history the way that we should know it within the people that are expressing that they have that knowledge?
Great question. I love this. It's a beautiful conversation. I love the flow. The good news about this, Michael, is that each and every one of us bring an aspect of a very complex, multi-layered, multidimensional ancient book. Let's call it this way. So let's say that your role as a soul history, as a historian, you remember multiple civilization, and your role is to come and to re-educate everybody about an aspect of what history is truly about. This person you mentioned, Kuan Yin, her role as another maybe historian or cosmic archives, her role is to bring another aspect of history, like Maldek or the Lyran-Sirian War or Ryan conflict, uh, the project of Mars. I remember with the Antares and the Arcturians, we had a probe on Mars at a time when Mars was identical to the Earth and so forth. There's a lot of layers of history. Again, is everyone play their role according to what you bring. So what comes to you, it's unique the way you're able to bring that information. So it will be true in that perspective. So that's a layer that you bring to this very complex, multidimensional, ancient book that we call history. No one, and that includes myself, and that's why I'm very humble when I said that, is no one has the entirety of the old truth and nothing but the truth. When somebody comes and declare, only listen to me because I have the truth, I question what is the intention behind it. If I said to you, this is what I know, this is part of my mission, this is what I'm here to do to be of service, and this is what the information and the guidance I have for you, then you can tell that it's completely in resonance with who I am, and it will be provided that way. It's very much a multiple piece. I'll give you another example of it, if I may. Like channeling, okay? There's a lot more people coming out. They say, well, I talk to the Arcturian. I talk to the Syrian Council. I talk with a large delegation of groups of beings. I talk to the archangels. And yes, it is true. that person or these group of people or channels, each and every one of them will bring the channel in the capacity that they were designed to bring in. So it is an aspect of a much more complex level of reality that we're starting to comprehend, to accept, to feel, to integrate. And we want to learn more. And that's great. I always says, take the time to integrate all the energy that you're absorbing, because it's not just about feeling your mind, you're also feeling your soul, you're feeling your body, and your body is a template, your body is a conduit that is holding all these patterns and all these frequency that you are bringing in. And then what happens is that you need to stay balanced. Where do you fit in all of this? Where is your core? Where is your light? In time to time to take some distance, step back, integrate, and ask. I ask, can that higher truth be revealed to me? From what you have learned, from what you have listened, from what you have felt and experienced, take the time to retreat to your inner universe, the uniqueness of your expression, and ask, from everything I have learned lately, or this week, or today, take a deep breath, clear your mind, and ask, may higher truth be revealed to me. This way, you're allowing yourself to really integrate key of knowledge that pertain the most to you, that support your day-to-day evolution, awakening, spiritual presence, empathic responses to life. This way, when life situation happens, it is all aspect of you responding to it, as opposed to be fragmented by programming and pattern and belief system that runs you at a subconscious level. And I always says with my clients, what aspect of you is talking with me right now? Where is the rest of you? Are you present? That makes a huge difference. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, it certainly does. And I think that when people are watching through this interview, we're listening to the words that come out of your mouth, obviously, as a topical endeavor, because, as you get into these things, if you were to listen to it over and over again, you get something else out. I think there's a lot behind your words. I think there's a lot to sit and contemplate. And if we're in this state of rumination and introspection where we have the ability, the capacity to do that, I think, yes, this is what we should be doing at this time. Again, having the accessibility, because in our history, given where the consciousness levels were and perhaps what we were doing evolutionary wise, this wasn't something that was accessible, and we didn't have the ability to garner such personal power and anchor it in to the physicality, really, just to kind of make it a global thing. Before I ask you the next question, which is, more in line with what we're talking about here, I have to ask you, I don't know if you'll have a real answer for this, but I'd like to hear your opinion on this. Now, I have been working with what we consider to be the Montauk project for a very long time. And without going into any real detail, sparing everybody for the moment, we understand that extraterrestrials were involved in this project, at the very least, to help create some of the equipment and guide us in our technological advancements at the time. And of course, there was some sort of deal that would benefit the extraterrestrials, but there were also groups that would come to these projects and just observe. Now, we understand that the Montauk project was what we'd consider one of the most horrific projects against human nature and life in general. And we can go even further than that. Why would some of these extraterrestrials that may even hold some sort of parentage to us be involved in something so destructive that we completely move away from who we are in a spiritual sense, in a holistic sense, in a positive sense? Again, just a blanket statement, this. Why would they choose to be involved in something like that, in exchange technology that can help program people, rip energy out of bodies, place them into other bodies? What are your thoughts on that?
The beauty about human beings is your capacity for compassion, your capacity to love, to feel, to relate. You have a sense of codes and moralities. You have the capacity to hold life in the highest regards. It's one of the traits that we love the most about Earth human beings. And from a ascended, enlightened, intergalactic perspective that we provide, We see human beings as such, galactic royalties, and we rejoice, celebrate already with you within your future timeline because we know you're going to be reaching that point very soon. And soon can be a year, 2 years, 5 years, not 50 years, much sooner than that. Without being said, I want to go back to what you say. It's all interconnected. My role is to support the future timeline that we are about to go into. So all of those projects that may have happened into different timelines at a time, we have to think about the monitoring of multiple timeline. We can see all at once what is the most possible and probable ones. Not all intergalactic groups are on the same level. There's a complete spectrum of understanding. Some intergalactic groups or galactic groups that you just mentioned barely, Michael, have none of those points. They are unable to relate from an emotional aspect or even a divine aspect. So to them, they perceive reality in a whole different perspective. They may be more self-serving because that's what served their evolution. So I remember sometime Cryon mentioned there's no need for you to put humanity in everything that you interconnect or interact with. And I'm paraphrasing here. But what Cryon meant to say is that you need to realize that there are groups of life out there in the multiverse that to them, all of those perception of why doing this to a civilization, it's non-existent in their reality. So you have to look in terms of that conjunction to any project of that nature was part at a time where the Earth was moving through a multitude of probable timelines. What you need to focus on, lovingly, our recommendation is that the good news is that the ascension timeline has been supported, it's been maintained, and this is exactly where we're heading. Yes, we understand that many souls may choose to continue their evolution beyond the physicality, and that is okay. It is still an evolution. Yes, we know that there might be souls who will choose to continue evolving on the third density reality until they reach their own level of next evolution. And there are many, many, many more souls who says, I am embracing this awakening process. I am embracing that I'm a star seed. I am embracing that I know I have been coming back to the earth in this human form to assist, help, bring light, teaching, and all healing and all of it. So when you talk about those projects, the invitation is to avoid lingering on those energies because it's sustained an old timeline. Yes, the ripple effect have been enormous, and we understand, which is why of the many reasons for assistance. All of your brothers and sisters of the stars, they're just part of your cosmic communities. The earth has never been disconnected. It's been put into illusionary matrix reality that make you believe that you are disconnected from them, but you've always been part of something infinitely bigger. So throughout aspect of a history that's now coming back to the surface with disclosure, documents, whistleblower, and all of this is coming back to the surface, like boiling water that brings all this fog. And you go, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. How come this has been allowed? You're asking a question that has a multitude complexity of answers to it. The better response is remember that you are a multidimensional being and the earth has entered into multiple timelines over a time of evolution, and a very old cycle has ended quite a long time, quite a bit ago, so to speak, and we are shifting from linear time construct to finally return to a more universal time. And eventually, all of those military, secret project, government, this is not my specialty because I'm here for the ascension evolution process. But all of these aspects of your infinite part of your history will be simply archived to rediscover something much, much more infinite that is more sustainable, to your evolution, that is much more helpful, that is much more positively impactful to help you understand the immensity of what you carry and who you are within. And that would be a short answer to something complex like that.
Absolutely. Once again, I've obviously spoken to other people regarding this project, and my thought was always, based on what my involvement was or is, if you want to look at it that way, it wasn't necessarily about bringing up these negative aspects that have already been covered. I mean, we're aware of what they were doing to a certain degree, perhaps enough, as some people might call it, but it was about the healing. What came next? So I always had this very focused idea, speaking to some of these survivors. I understand you went through the trauma, but how did that change and develop you as a person? What did you take from that personally and make it something positive in your life? For example, somebody now has a greater understanding of energy, or they work with hands-on healing, and this is now their forte as a result of going through that programming trauma and so forth, or certain psi efforts such as Captain Randy Kramer. There's a multitude of different things people can pull out of this, because right now we're sort of left in the wake of what happened. The activity there, that energy that is part of those projects. Yes, you said it beautifully. It's nonlinear, it's multidimensional, and in our recollection, that's the most confusing part, because we remember certain segments that didn't necessarily happen to us physically in this linear lifetime, but they happened and we were present for them, and it's a matter of putting those things together and then again moving forward, because as you said, we are moving into a different timeline. We're moving into a different energetic state wherein those type of activities, thought forms, and mentalities simply can't exist in that vibration. So yes, there will be some people who choose to stick around. As I've heard, as soon as I understood this pole shift theory, there will be some people who stay around and do this. There will be others who continue forward and move forward. But those who stay around might have a later responsibility of pulling things up again if the opportunity arises. Thank you for your response on that. I very much appreciate that. Now, coming to you personally, obviously somebody listening to what you're saying, agreeing perhaps with what you're saying, looking at themselves, how does one become aware of their role as an intergalactic emissary or representative of the Galactic Federation? And how does that differ from someone who simply channels a particular species of extraterrestrial?
There's a multitude of ways a soul have chosen to come here to serve. So if you come here and it says, I'm going to be consciously awakening to my ability to open all of my channels and become a very clear communicator, well, that service is immense, because it allows a point of connection directly through a physical vessel on this earth. So they may be communicating with a group or a collective or a delegation. It doesn't mean that at a soul level they're necessarily a star seed, or they can be themselves an emissary and they have no knowledge of it. Regardless of what the label we put on people, you have to look in terms of what is the purpose of that service. So most star seed, whether it's a soul emanation coming from another star system and they come into a human form, most star seed has a very deep inner knowing of who they are. And they have known usually from childhood, knowing that they came here on some kind of mission. The family unit they were born into feel foreign. They may have a member or two they relate the most to, or sometimes not at all. I hear that a lot in my work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always, at a soul level, a soul recognition of what they bring, whether they feel already an affinity with the stars, the planet, they feel an affinity with the group. The moment they hear a name, they feel the resonance right away. And so there's many star seed, and through them they play different roles. Some of them may become just working in the field of industries like medical field, or being nurse, or being practitioners, or working even in a banking institution. They come to spread light in places where they need the most support as we're shifting the paradigm. Others, it says, I'm going to be a direct boots on the ground point of contact. And that's always said they become teachers, or they just says, I know what to say. I can see someone on the street and that message just come through me. And I said, I need to tell you this. And it sounds weird. You don't know me, but here's a message for you. And then souls with those abilities know that they are point of what I call point of contact, a point of delegation on the planet. Others knows in their soul at the soul level they're here to be healers. Healing, it's a huge umbrella, huge. It's an infinite umbrella that has taken on so many shapes and forms. It can be through writing, fictional books that inspires, sparks ancient memories. Aha. Music, composition with tones that open the channel. It can be also can be just hands-on. But I like the word just because the word just it's a powerful bridge that implies simplicity with power.
Hmm.
And so when you are, let's say, Reiki, I'm just doing Reiki. I hear that from clients. And I'm like, good for you because you're bridging something powerful in the simplicity of allowing you to be a conduit of light and allowing Creator to work through you. Imagine the wonders He can do. And so I also encounter a lot of angelic beings, beings who come directly from the angelic realms. And they come at different level. Those will be dedicated just for the animals kingdom. And God
Hmm.
knows how much they need help. They're here to help to heal the animals. They already come to heal, to work with trees. Mother Gaia helping to heal her body. They're more here for the planet. There will be different roles depending of what is your soul has come to do, or what is uniquely assigned to you, even though you feel like, well, I'm doing what you're doing. And the answer to I always says, no, you don't. I don't do what you do, and you don't do what I do. We do what we're come to do in our uniqueness, and we bring that light together. That is far more powerful, right?
I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that is it's clear as it gets, folks. It's as clear as it gets right there. It's not about separation. It's about individuality. It's about unique path. It's about the collective as we meet back together and braid what we've experienced in that respect. Very quickly, Thomas Kunis, thank you very much for the £5.99. $5.99 super pounds. How I don't know how to say it in your culture, but regardless, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate your continued support of the channel. I will give you another shout out towards the end there. Thank you, Thomas Kunis. Speaking of star seeds, are we all hybrid beings? Is that intrinsic to our nature in what was set forth within the intention of those who created us, or are we? Are there others that walk on this planet that don't have that type of connection?
Excellent question. I knew we were going in that direction. I will speak from, and I love that, Michael. I will speak of what I know through my own connections. Earth human beings are indeed considered as a race of hybrids in a sense that human beings carry in their DNA and their genetic codes a large variety of gene that comes or DNA strand that comes from a multitude of groups. I believe it's about 21 or 22 different groups. And that has been a result of the true Earth history, the manipulation, genetic add-on, whether it's multidimensional, whether it's through different reasons. Now, it's very vast. So, in that sense, the word hybrid will apply in that sense to an entire civilization that still usually has evolved here. The Earth is the original spark, and then the matrix has been mixed with a lot of galactic DNA that creates you as a galactic royalties in that sense. So yes, which is very different from a soul that originate outside of their solar system, outside of the Milky Way, or outside of different places, and that soul comes through what we call star seed and embody come into a physical human body. So can it be considered as a hybrid through embodying the human genome? Yes, but at soul level, that soul is a star seed because it's a soul emanation that comes from another system. Now we'll take it to the next level, hybrid. There are those who have been genetically made through the crossbreed of a human parents and an extraterrestrial parents. We hear that a lot with the Greys or other groups that creates hybrid children to support their evolution, their own civilizations. And those children who are highly hybrid in a sense, they feel much more ET with human trait will be usually kept on the ship because they cannot coexist in this 3D reality. They won't be able to function or even survive in their physicality. It's really very difficult for hybrids, especially with the immune system and the respiratory system. Those are 2 points that are very difficult. Then I'm going to push it to another level, like myself, that says, okay, I consulted with my council of elders. We looked through the different probable timeline, the future timeline of the Earth, the evolution of what the probability at the time of ascension was. And I said, over a preparation that took a long time, I said, I want to return here and find a way to stay on the planet in a physical vessel that will allow me to have a much more direct impact to the system and the ecosystem of the planet and everyone on it. How can I do that? Because if I go into my original form, I would not be physically able to sustain and be on the planet. The planet is too dense. The third density, it's much, much too dense. So they said, okay, we're going to perfect a very advanced technology called holographic projection and hologram that has a capacity to hold and sustain an entire body system and will host a consciousness. So that's the compromise as a vessel that vibrates a higher frequency, but that will be sustained with a lot of help, mind you, to be here physically functioning and allowing my consciousness or an aspect of my consciousness to be physically present with all of you. So I can shake your hand, just do this interview, talk with you, create classes, travel, and everywhere I go and everywhere that I do, those frequencies are radiating everywhere all the times. And also I send signals back to my delegation that understand the stability of where the Earth projection is, where is the Earth trajectory is at any given time. It's a very, very complex system. I'm not going to go into the detail because you're going to go looking at me with big eyes because like, what are you talking about? And that's not the goal here. The point I am making is I am illustrating 6 degrees of separation, different level of hybrids, and what the word hybrids really mean. It's a word that has become much more popularized in the UFO and the spiritual fields, but at the same time, it has to be regarded in its proper context. So yes, human beings to that aspect be considered as a hybrid race? Okay. A multidimensional race? Absolutely. But on top of it, you also have beautiful intergalactic beings who are also in human form. You have different type of hybrids who bring different genetic material to come to help. You have angelic beings in human form that have come to help. So it brings additional layers of complexity and support system. And that's what matters the most, if that makes sense.
It certainly does. It absolutely makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you folks? I hope so. If not, listen to it again. Listen to it again. Speaking of origin, now that we're on the topic of hybrids and so forth, who exactly or which exactly were the species involved in our creation and what was the process of that endeavor? I understand we were created interdimensionally and perhaps manifested as sets. I've been given the number 8 in total. What are your thoughts on our origin and how we actually came to be a physical being the way that we see human beings today? Again, knowing that there is the idea that certainly there were extraterrestrial races of beings for a certain reason that decided to create us here.
Well, it's a very complex question, and I will only bring certain aspect to this. And I promise you, as the time goes, I'll bring some of my historian next time so we can explore that even more in depth. But for the sake of your beautiful question, let's just explore. So you have to look at, again, the original design when even humanity was in its original celestial human template. And then if you look at the way the earth has evolved and then descended, and we know it's thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, the presence of the Anunnaki is one aspect of it. The presence of the Sirians where they came, the presence of the Pleiadians where they had an outpost. They also contribute to the DNA gene pool. And they did that for them because they want to adapt, hoping they could stay on the planet, but they couldn't. Again, not everyone can stay on the Earth, not in that third density.
Mm-hmm.
There's a multitude of groups who have come to either counteract what other groups may have done to implement, for example, the gene of obedience to higher authority. And we know through our history, now it's coming back to the surface, that like the Anunnaki, for example, taking the original spark of human beings or early life on the planet, mix their own gene into that DNA, create a new template to implement a being that would be docile and be really hardworking and be very obedient to their task. Then other group come and they say, "Oh, that's a mistake.
Yes.
What do you do? You're manipulating and preventing evolution. We're going to add different other, DNA or different gene to help to counteract, and in time there will be a multidimensional quantum aspect of the DNA evolution that will help human beings return to their own original template." Then another group says, "Okay, I'm going to add another layer to help to support that." So I'm giving you a super simplified summary right now, just for the sake of, since we're moving almost at the end of the interview, a very super simplified response to something that will continue to unfold in comprehension at the same level as your own DNA strand continue to awaken. We know that the DNA has been reduced to two strands, and then the rest is supposed to be obsolete. Now we know this theory is completely illusionary. We disregard the obsolete theory about the DNA, and we start to accept now, and we got 12 strand, and the 12 strand is also a 12-dimensional aspect to it. And to that, there's another multidimensional aspect to it. And so the DNA concept is evolving tremendously. And I'll tell you, that is going hand in hand with the human consciousness evolution. The more you consciously evolve, the more it has a direct impact on your DNA. There will come a time, Michael, where you're going to be able to connect to the quantum consciousness of your DNA like a library of archives, and go in your inner library and says, "Help me understand, what is strand number 12 designed for? What is the origin behind it? Help me understand how it supports my journey. Help me remember." There's a whole alchemical process going to start to open up. You're opening your multidimensional senses. You're opening your ancient memory connectors, and you start to get those soul memories. Right now, if that was to happen, it will be so overwhelming that people won't be able to sustain the the grand design of what they carry within themselves. What I would recommend more is start to cultivate your frequencies. Start to maintain your level of frequency. What level, what vibratory level are you at every day? And start to explore your inner universe. This is why I am going to launch, potentially between December or January, the next level of support system that I call the Arcturian Ancient Healing Arts. And it's going to be an ancient program that consists of 3 levels to really help people, design to help people to embrace more and more and more their divinity, the cosmic origin, who they are. And there it's like everything starts to evolve within you. Like think of it this way: your inner tree of life is start to blossom, and you start to remember your ancient roots beyond this earth. You're starting to identify to much more. And so the obsolete program or belief system of the 3D logic mind become like an old software that is outdated, and you have gone through maybe 10 upgrades in between. You keep it maybe as a souvenir, but that's it. You moved on, you know? It's something very similar.
I appreciate that brief answer too, because yes, I know it's a very complex concept to get into. Certainly, we could spend hours and hours upon hours talking about this based on the research, what intuitions come to play. But yeah, it's certainly something that I think people need to visit and at least get the idea inside of them for the manifestation of reality and truth that may come a little bit later in respect to a mass consensus. We kind of have to get those baby steps going and move forward in a gentle fashion, the way that we, for whatever reason, are constructed. That's what we prefer. That's absolutely, absolutely fascinating. Viviane, we are getting to the end of the interview. And first and foremost, I want to thank you from the absolute bottom of my heart for being here with us tonight. I have had such a fantastic time that I don't generally watch some of these shows that I put down. Obviously, we're doing a lot of these things. You're a podcaster yourself. You have a fantastic channel on YouTube I'll ask you about in just a moment. But this is one of those shows that, folks, I'm going to sit down probably tomorrow and listen to again in its entirety. And I certainly implore you to do the same, because, again, there's a lot behind the words that you're not going to initially catch. It's just not the way the mind works right now, where the brain takes in certain information. It's going to take in as much as it can, the way that you fill a glass with water. But once you come back the next day, that glass of water is empty from the evaporation. It's been integrated, and now you can fill it back up again. So definitely check out this interview once again. Viviane, can you tell us where we can find you? Tell us a little bit about your podcast that you have here on YouTube. I did get a chance to check it out. I think it's absolutely fascinating. You have some wonderful guests that come on and have some great roundtable conversations. Tell us a little bit about that and how else people can reach you. I'd appreciate it.
Michael, thank you so much. And thank you for allowing to oscillate between amazing topics, complex, and coming back into the heart and moving back into more cosmic, and we went back to the earth. I feel that we have done a beautiful tour. It's almost like we says, okay, here's we're hand shoulder to shoulders, and we've been traveling throughout the multiverse, went back to the earth, went back in time, returned to this reality, and says, now we're re-anchoring ourselves. So I love this. And yes, you are correct. Everything that we convey has such a quantum energy behind it, such a presence behind it. And so we speak with you at a multidimensional level. We know that at the same time, it speaks to your soul language, it speaks to your body, it speaks to your heart. It also nurture your higher mental faculties and help to settle down your lower mind, the logic mind. So there's a multitude of energies that everyone, including yourself, has received. So how to find me? My website is called Infinite Healing from the Stars.com. That is Infinite Healing from the Stars.com. This name came to me 10 years ago. I was not public at the time. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I didn't realize that it's long. And now with my handle, when I write my email, I'm thinking, thanks a bunch, guys. You could have given me something a bit shorter, but anyway. So, and we do have my podcast with my co-host, Jeff. And it's called the Infinite Star Connections. We started this podcast over 2 years now, and it's been absolutely an amazing journey. It's directly on my YouTube channel. Subscribe, stay put. I know that our talk will be handing up on my YouTube channel as well. And we have also a library of free meditation. Every month I post 2 new meditations on the YouTube channel at the same time that we pre-record. Watch them. They're tools to assist people. You're welcome to sign up live. My website has everything. We have a Patreon community with amazing membership. We have a calendar of event. We have a cruise coming up next year. We have a retreat coming up in January. There's so much going on. So check it out, everyone.
And for all of you with the short-term memory loss, all of this is in the description below. You can find links there. Cashew Gesundheit has graciously put Viviane's YouTube channel in the chat. You guys can follow the link directly from there. Please go and check out her body of work. It's absolutely amazing and incredibly comprehensive, as you can imagine. Thank you so much, Viviane, once again for being here tonight. I'd love to have you back on the show. No pressure. You don't have to answer now. But I would love to have you back on and continue to discuss some of your work and what you've gotten into, because believe me, I know we've only scratched the surface here.
Very well said, Michael. We have, but for today, it was perfect. Just enough energies to really move and already start to feel, think, invite. It's an invitation. And yes, I don't have to think twice. I would love to be back. So thank you for offering.
Well, thank you so much. I very much appreciate that, Viviane. I'm going to take you off for the moment here and just close out the show. But once again, thank you so much for everything that you've imparted with us today, everything that you've shared, the experiences that you've gone through to garner this type of knowledge and information, and the ability to convey it with such articulation and a concise nature. Thank you very much. All right, folks. My God, let me tell you, I knew this was going to be a hell of a show, and I knew that because I was nervous beforehand. Performing for as many years as I have in different avenues, you know, whether it be theater, whether it be television, whether it be musically, whether it be stand-up comedy, I mean, you name it, magic. There's always an element that I've noticed that if I'm a little nervous, just get those little butterflies before any type of show, it's going to be fantastic. If you don't have those, you might be up the creek without a paddle, if you know what I'm saying. Usually that's how it goes. And tonight, I was absolutely blown away by everything Viviane had to say. Again, please go and check her out. Thomas Kunis, thank you so much once again for your support here on the channel. I do appreciate that, guys. I appreciate all of your support when you come through, even just being here is supporting us, and obviously showing the interest that you do. And of course, the comments and emails that I get daily. Thank you so much for all of your input and what you have in way of suggestion and experience. Tomorrow, let's see, what's tomorrow? Well, let me put it this way. I have so much in front of me right now. There are a couple of peripheral projects I'm working on, as well as the Montauk documentary that we've been following up on. There have been some more developments. I keep saying this every time I come on, but really, I'm going to do this the right way. And I've been doing it the right way, along with Jared Murphy, working very hard to get some of these interviews together. And again, putting this all together in a very comprehensive, continuous sort of fashion, so that you folks can really get the scope of what we're trying to put out with this particular film. Thank you all for your patience. Scotty B, I appreciate your patience especially, and you know why, my friend. Folks, we will be back next week, if not sooner, with another fantastic guest or something else. So stick around and keep on here. I'm trying to think if there was anything that I meant to mention. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Well, it'll come to me. I'll post it in another way. Thank you all for being here tonight. Once again, moderators, super chatters, veterans, and newcomers alike, the way that Rich Giordano says it over at GoofOn. I can't plug him now because he's probably sleeping, but check him out tomorrow. He's on every night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. GoofOn, go check him out. Fantastic stuff for those of you who don't know. Again, we will see you next week, folks. I won't keep Viviane waiting much longer, but thank you all for being here. We'll see you again next time. Until then, stay explorative, stay curious, and continue to explore this incredibly nebulous field that we are all part of, with one common goal: to seek the truth. Ciao.